What's the fastest you've seen a couple go from married to divorced, and what caused it? The husband had an unsolicited outburst at a family dinner. I know you guys know I do meth. And you need to back off about it. Wife didn't know. Her dad didn't know. Nobody knew. Some friends, who had been dating for a few months, got married in Las Vegas as sort of a drunken joke. The girl found out she would lose a lot of her trust fund because of being married. A gaggle of 4 lawyers were flown in and got a very quick retroactive annulment. Marriage lasted 4 days, except legally it was declared to have never existed at all. They dated for 3 more years then broke up. Not sure how long it took the divorce to actually happen, but I went to a wedding where the bride didn't go home with the groom afterwards. There wasn't any cheating, she just decided she didn't want to be a military wife. They were together before he enlisted, so I think part of it was that she wasn't ready to move away from her family. It just sucked that she waited until that day to tell anyone. She went through with the wedding and then told him she didn't want to be married to him. I have so many questions. Like, she told him after the ceremony or after the reception? Were guests present? Did the guests get their gifts back? Who paid for the wedding? Did she realize it was awful to do? Or was she just like, oh, no, I changed my mind, have fun on the honeymoon, maybe you can bring a friend? Pretty sure it was after an after reception dinner that was just for family. We had a long drive home, so we didn't attend the dinner. Fairly certain her family paid for most of it, but guests didn't get gifts back. I don't remember them having a honeymoon planned, aside from moving her to where he was stationed. I really don't know if she realized how awful it was at the time, but I don't think she cared, based on behavior after. Next door neighbor got married. Less than 2 months later she moved out, said he was abusive and a drunk. A couple of weeks later he shot and killed their neighbor through the front door after an escalating feud involving the neighbor's dog getting shot with a bow and arrow. My cousin and her first husband got divorced after about a month because one of them lived in Houston and the other in Dallas, and they never really agreed how they were going to deal with that. I'm sure there were other things too, but that was the official story. I went to a wedding where the bride got drunk and the groom picked up her phone and saw that she was sexting a coworker during the entire wedding. He told the officiant to not file the paperwork. Great reception though. Edit. This occurred at the end of the reception as they were leaving to go to the honeymoon suite. The story is she was very drunk and her phone kept getting notifications, so he picked it up. They did not go on their honeymoon and they returned the gifts to everyone. The guests weren't told about what happened for a couple weeks as the bride was trying to save the relationship. I was also not privy to the legality of the nuptials not being submitted to the city clerk, so I can't help on that front. Years and years ago, my uncle's girlfriend planned a wedding and invited everyone and didn't tell him until the week of. I don't know the whole story about why she did it, but he went through with it and quietly got it annulled and broke up with her. I know 2 couples who got married for the sole purpose of having sex together. Both marriages lasted a year combined. My friend married this woman after years of dating. They were together about 6 months. Then on their first Christmas, he got her a present and she got him nothing. Later that night she left their house and didn't come back until the next morning. Apparently she had made an account on some dating site on Christmas, met a guy, and slept with him that night. She came clean the next day, but that was the end of their 6-month marriage. A relative of mine had a marriage last less than 3 weeks. They had been together for a couple years and even went to premarital counseling at their church for a few months to get ready. Their wedding was super lavish, and it was clear a lot of prep and money went into it. At their wedding they announced they were expecting their first child. Everything seemed great. Unfortunately the whole thing blew up when the wife discovered he had been cheating on her for almost their entire relationship with multiple women. She found this out while in a foreign country on their honeymoon. 4 months pregnant. I know from her mom that she had complications in her pregnancy that they attribute to the stress of all of this. My wife's family's neighbor's daughter got married and threw a huge wedding day bash, like spent 50 to 70 grand. Then not even 2 weeks later got divorced. She had been cheating on her husband throughout the engagement, but still wanted her back. Special day. I heard later on that she had asked her mom if she had to live with her husband after they got married. My dad and his second wife made it like not even 4 months before she left, and I never saw or heard from her again. She said she was going to give me an old Nintendo 64. She never did. A relative of mine was forced into a shotgun wedding. The bride had a miscarriage, so they got divorced a month later. I work as a clerk at a family courthouse. Bride ducked the DJ at the reception. New record for the office pool. Edit. To be fair, the divorce was about 2 months after the wedding, when the husband was told by the maid of honor. Still, wild story. I have a friend who proposed to his girlfriend like a week after he caught her cheating on him. He thought it would bring them closer and fix their relationship. Needless to say, he drove by his house on lunch a few months later and saw her Coworker's truck in the driveway. She's getting decked down in his house and he just drives right by. They are currently getting divorced after barely a year of marriage. I can understand his reasoning regardless of how flawed. I spent my 2016 being cheated on by my girlfriend of 3 years. I know there are at least 7 different times across 4 different guys, and I'm sure there is more. I look back and realize I was in an abusive relationship, but back then I truly loved her and proposed to her in August that year, a day after my 21st, which I skipped, so I could afford to take her on a holiday to set the scene. A week later, and she cheated on me again. By the end of September I stopped loving her, but I became apathetic to what she was doing. The only reason why I wasn't leaving her was that she had spent the entire relationship telling me that if she left me no one else would want me, and that became a legitimate fear. In December of that year I found out she ditched hanging out with me around Christmas to go smoke weed and get decked by a dude. I called her and said that she had a day to come get her stuff and that I never wanted to see her again. I have no idea where I got the strength to do that from. I think God, but finally snapping is just as plausible, especially if you're atheistically inclined. But yeah, being cheated on makes people in love desperate to protect that love, no matter how toxic. They got married in the October. She left him just after Christmas the same year. She was bored. I don't know what he expected really. She cheated on him when they were engaged too, and he'd forgiven her. Had a bit of a tip off when we didn't see the bride at the reception. She was next door in the carriage house restroom sobbing. She had just found out on her wedding day that her groom had once been engaged to one of her bridesmaids. The groom was not cheating on her, but just never got around to telling her that he and one of their mutual friends had once been an item. The groom spent the reception at the bar. The restaurant staff served the meal, but there was no cake cutting, bridal dance, etc. When I worked at a college, couple marries because she is pregnant, wants the baby in wedlock, divorce, annulled I think. Actually, when baby was born the wrong color 3 months later. Was it green? I bet the baby was gray. Edit. Well, this blew up. Lots of dead baby jokes, yet no jokes about babies being born yellow from jaundice. Although the blue could be in relation to methemoglobinemia. Edit 2. Thank you random redditor for the gold. For more and you can join my Reddit MLM. Ranty MLM. My cousin was married, and then 3 months later he had a brain aneurysm and survived. His new wife divorced him soon after saying she wasn't prepared for that. He's now married to someone much nicer and 20 times more attractive. My neighbor got married at 19 and divorced when she was 20. Her parents got divorced while she was dating the guy and she moved in with him a couple months into the relationship. Together less than a year before they got married. Super young couple together for such a short time almost never works out. She didn't learn her lesson though, because she got engaged to someone else barely a year later. They called it off and broke up before getting married, though sadly that's the happy story of the family, because her younger sister got pregnant at 16 to a guy in his 30s, and then a couple years later got pregnant by him again and married him. He's currently in prison for statutory rape of a 13-year-old. Happened while they were together, but they are still married with 2 children, and she defends him on Facebook all the time. One of my friends from college filed for divorce 10 months after her wedding. They were never really a good match and everyone could see it. Honestly, I think she just wanted to have a wedding and be a princess for a day. Once she realized she actually had to keep the guy, she started having second thoughts. Girl I went to HS with has 4 kids from her first marriage. They divorced when they were in their early 40s. She decides she wants to get married again. She wants a religious family man and is convinced Nigeria is the route to go. She starts chatting up Nigerian guys on Facebook. Goes over there, marries a guy she just met via her Facebook husband search. After a few months of her sending money to him after she's home, she's unable to 1 month because she has 4 kids to worry about. He freaks out and they wind up getting it annulled. But wait, there's more. A year later, she's on her way to Nigeria again because she's found another guy to marry. This time she goes over there once to visit, comes home, then basically is, I'm not giving you money until we marry. She goes back over again within 6 months to marry him. A month after getting home she finds out she's pregnant. All is well. Eventually she's unable to send money because 4 kids with twins on the way and that comes first. He gets upset and they wind up divorced. She later finds out he'd been chatting up other women around the world and getting money from them, and was only going to use her for a green card to get to the States. I honestly don't feel bad for her. I feel bad for her 6 kids to have to witness their mom make stupid decisions. No idea how the hell she afforded all those plane tickets. She's given up on Nigeria now. Jamaica is on her sights now. So, I'm pretty sure before long, we'll see a shotgun wedding in Jamaica. Edited for spelling. How about the bride that pushed her new husband off a cliff on day 8? When people noticed he wasn't around, she notified the police. Then when they started searching for him and asking questions, she sent an anonymous email from Joe the plumber from her parents' computer saying he is dead. Then when they still didn't stop investigating, she led a search and rescue party directly to his body. She said God led her to the spot. At the funeral she seemed relieved, and guests heard her say she was glad that the police didn't have to be involved anymore. Eventually she made up a story about it being an accident. Finally she confesses to everything. They hadn't even consummated the marriage. It's a trippy ride, but here's the link. YouTube. Com watch. V equals NG4E6 Vatui Southwestern. He started using meth again after years of recovery. They were married for less than a year. Kinda sad really. He's in rehab now. A friend of mine worked for her husband's brother. It's how they met. Once they got married, her boss stopped paying her because she was family now and you don't have to pay family. So she quit and found another job immediately without consulting her husband, and in a fury her husband changed all the locks while she was asleep in the back bedroom and put deadbolts on the outside of the door so she could only leave their house if he let her out, and took her cell phone. They didn't have a landline. It took her about 2 hours to get a hold of us online. Dumbest didn't think she could contact people with a laptop, so we called the police who busted down the door and got her out. Husband went to prison, her divorce went through real quick, and now, 5 years later, she lives on the coast and got engaged again to a very sweet guy who knows we're all watching like hawks. 1 week, a couple of friends seemed happily married. Next thing I know, the wife has shared a pic of herself on the beach in a wedding dress, being lofted by some goth looking long haired dude, her new groom. No idea